Well, it comes down to what's good revenue, right?
Yeah.
So somebody put on the table at that time, well, what if we keep building it and we just have a dedicated development team that does the work and we just carve it off and set it over here? Okay, well, but it's never going to grow to be a 10 million, $20 million product. So you're never going to get that enterprise value multiple off of it. It's this one thing over here. So is it good revenue? It's not really good revenue.
If you build software or lead people who do, then you're in the right place. This is Hard Calls. Real decisions, real leaders, real outcomes. Hi, everyone. I am Trisha Price, and welcome back to another episode of Hard Calls, the podcast where we bring on the best product leaders from across the globe to talk about those moments, the decisions that matter, the hard calls. On today's show, I am thrilled to welcome Jodi McDermott, a three-time Chief Product Officer who is now serving as a board member, as well as advising and coaching C-suite on how to help drive business outcomes and build great products. She is greatly respected because of her track record of delivering exceptional returns and her passion for building authentic relationships that foster business outcomes. Welcome to Hard Calls, Jodi.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for you to be here and for this conversation. Jodi and I have known each other for a while, and I'm just so excited for her to share her experience today with all of you. So Jodi, today, this is called Hard Calls. Our podcast is Hard Calls. And so we always like to start with a hard call you've had to make. So tell us, looking back over your career, or even just the past year, whatever, share a hard call that you've had to make. What made it so challenging and what did you learn from it?
Well, I think as a chief product officer, you have a lot of hard calls that you have to make. The buck stops with you, right? I mean, you know this role, Trisha, as well. We've talked about it. And it usually comes down to people, products, and sometimes customers too, of trying to make those hard calls. So, when I was thinking about our conversation for today and what two hard calls that I could think of that popped to my mind over the last several years of my career. And I can't say that it didn't happen not more than once because they come all the time. They usually come down to people and obviously in what you're doing around products, right? So let's start with people. At the end of the day, people are what make businesses tick. And when you are a leader and you have people on your team, especially as your team gets larger, you have people that you trust that bring great experience and expertise. And then you also have people who have been on the journey with a company for a long time who might be cheerleaders and loyalists and they've contributed so much, but maybe something about the company's really changed.
Yeah.
And it's time for new leadership. And
Yep.
so I think those hard calls every executive faces. And I can think of a couple of hard calls particularly that have fallen into both of those categories with people. If you've ever had somebody in your organization that maybe was a really high performer, but they weren't a cultural fit,
Yes.
and maybe they ruffled a lot of feathers, and it wasn't one time, but it was continuous. There's been times I've had to make a really hard call to move a high performer out because I knew it was pulling down the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to even see it happening. And because people are afraid to say something, and you have to be watching out for that to be able to protect, the totality of the team, right? And other hard calls have included when you have somebody who's a performer that they're a wonderful person, they're a wonderful human being, and they are going to crush it in a different role, but the role they're in is not what you need for your actual team, right? To get you where you're going to go.
I love that.
Jodi, it's so hard.
It's so hard. At Encino, where I worked prior to coming to Pendo, Pierre, our CEO, had this quadrant, and he would call it the competent jerk, was exactly what you were just talking about, and the lovable fool. And he kind of had this quadrant of exactly what you're talking about. And I love the conversation about when people are in the wrong role, even though they're not just an amazing cultural fit, but they have value to add, but just not in the role they're in. I think the hardest part of that call is when they don't see it, when they love the job and you're like, oh my gosh, I know your career is going to explode if we can give you access and opportunity somewhere else, but they don't want to take it. That is probably the toughest scenario.
It really is. It's hard because I love people. I'm a people person, and it's hard when you have to sit down and have a really hard conversation with somebody, because you just want them, you know, they're going to be better on the other side at the end of the day if you can be kind
Yeah.
but clear on what needs to happen. But another hard call that I wanted to share with you is that there was a product hard call that I think took me a while to make. And I had, we had acquired a company that had a product that they were building for one customer. So it was a product that they had contracted to build this product, and everybody felt like they were close to the finish line, close to the finish line. And every quarter that would go by, we just needed one more quarter. And I had a few executives on, my peers that were going, "What are we doing over here? Why are we spending money on this?" But especially when you acquire a company and you have a new customer coming in, you're trying to be a promise keeper, right? Like product, you're trying to be promise keeper as much as you possibly can. And that was one that was a really hard call that we finally made the decision that we were going to go negotiate to get out of this agreement, and that we had to say no, and we had to stop because we didn't see profitability down the line. At one point we did, and then it just kept dwindling and dwindling. And especially when you are working in private equity and you have a timeline for how you're spending those R&D dollars, you just can't be deploying it where you're not going to get the return. And that was a really, really hard call.
So
And I would say that was probably one that it was definitely influenced on. It was there, it was discussion with my CEO and my CFO and others and how we were going to manage the customer. But that was a hard one as a product officer, of having to go and tell a customer, no, we can't keep going and we can't keep doing this.
that I'm so glad you shared that, because sunsetting products or disappointing a particular customer is probably one of the hardest things we do as CPOs. But I mean, you and I both know, even if you finished the product, products are never finished,
No.
right? And so it's like, even if you met the needs of that particular customer and got live, there would have been asks for forever for that. And so, making that difficult decision not to do a one-off for a customer, but to try to invest those R&D dollars where you can get a multiple where everybody's using it, is obviously always the right choice, but that doesn't mean it's the easy choice.
Well, it comes down to what's good revenue, right?
Yeah.
Somebody put on the table at that time, well, what if we keep building it and we just have a dedicated development team that does the work, and we just carve it off and set it over here? Okay, well, but it's never going to grow to be a 10 million, $20 million product. So you're
Right.
never going to get that enterprise value multiple off of it. It's this one thing over here. So is it good revenue? It's not
Yeah.
really good revenue.
Yeah.
Those are the hard ones when, and then you have people on the other line that you have friendships with, and, or at least relationships with,
Yeah. Trust.
and
Right.
having to go and have that conversation is really tough.
So hard. And you mentioned, the fact that it was private equity backed, and when you're in PE, that pressure to get a return from your R&D. And how do you, when you're a CPO or in the C-suite at a private equity company where there is tremendous pressure to deliver value, how do you balance that rapid value creation, that need for good revenue quickly, with the need for long-term product innovation?
I think a lot of it has to do with getting telemetry around your R&D spend.
Yeah.
Where are you spending the dollars, right? When I usually walk into the door at any company, the first thing I want to know is, where are the people? Where are the dollars associated with those people? How are they deployed against the product architecture? What's the ARR? What are the bookings? What were the bookings last year? What are the bookings this year? Or what's the potential for the bookings? And what is that percentage allocation against those baseline numbers? And are we deploying it in a way that's optimized? Are we spending everything trying to get out of tech debt, or are we just grow, and we're mounting tech debt on the other side? The goal is to have a good, healthy balance in there, and getting it carved out where you have those growth dollars carved out at a really healthy percentage, and then stack rank or organizing it in a myopic way of, okay, what are we going to invest in, right? Where's that cut line? We can't do everything.
Yep.
What are all the opportunities that we can go after? And then it's a lot of financial discipline. So
Yeah.
I encourage CPOs bring your FP&A team in and get them really close to you, right? I always wanted my FP&A analyst, who is mine?
I know.
Who is my FP&A analyst?
Jodi, I was at the Pendo headquarters last week in Raleigh, and I saw the FP&A analyst who I worked so tightly with my first couple of years at Pendo. And I was like, Matthew.
Yes.
And, we built so many spreadsheets together when I first came into Pendo, just specifically for me and how I needed to look at things. And I am so with you. Those numbers matter so much. Do
And mine
you?
was Alistair. You're out there, Alistair. Alistair was amazing and just, was a strategic thought partner of, okay, well, if we deploy R&D resources in this region, what's the cost? Well, wait, the talent's over here in this region, so how much is it going to cost? And how quickly could we build something versus can we do a slow roll on it? Do we swarm on it? And all the different scenarios around that, which goes back to how quickly do we have to go to market, right? How quickly do we need to launch something? In private equity, you don't have years to build a product to eventually get it out there. You have, maybe a quarter or two to, put a stake in the ground, and then you've got to iterate it off of it quickly and start building that snowball of ARR.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so, when you're doing that and you're pulling together numbers, do you have standard percentages that are in your head that, like, if they're not spending on sort of tech debt and modernization, it's a red flag, or if they're not spending in growth, that it's a red flag, or is it more nuanced than that?
I think it depends on the stage of the company. I mean, what 20-year-old SaaS company doesn't have a mound of tech debt, right? It's kind of rare these days.
Maybe
Um,
10 years, right?
even 10 years, yeah. I think, startups nowadays, they're going out there, they don't have that tech debt. And so, a lot of times they're getting products out to market really, really quickly, but then they hit a scalability issue and they have to architect their, foundation, et cetera. So you're going to hit at some point that you're going to hit some level of a distribution. I always like to start with a distribution of what I call maintain, sustain, and grow. 30%, 30%, 40%. Now, is not true for all products. It is not true for all companies. I mean, it's just a starting point to say, okay, where are you? And
Yep.
then, of course, there's always a big, huge debate over, well, what goes into retention, what goes into maintenance. I have never joined any company where there has not been a religious discussion around that topic. So, but I think that's a good starting point. And then knowing, here's the main thing. If you walk into a company and it's 50% retention work and 50% maintenance, and you're not doing anything to grow the business, well, you got a red flag right there,
Right.
right? So there's no perfect number. It's more so of, where are you against the baseline of, are you high or low or medium? And where do you think you need to be to actually hit the numbers of what's in your financial plan?
Mhm.
And, what can you do creatively to challenge your engineering team for what they need to be doing on the technical side, or challenging your product managers? Hey, what I like to say, don't be in the hamster wheel of just doing like feature, 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 feature. Like, what are we doing to really grow and build muscle in the business?
So you mentioned earlier that, when you are trying to do new features or new products that have intentional growth or ARR goals, you don't have years. You don't have 2 and 3 years to do that in this atmosphere. You have a quarter or a couple of months, maybe 2 quarters. How do you manage that? How do you manage getting a quality product out there for people, and driving those business outcomes at the same time?
I think it depends what it is, right? You always have your build buy partner scenario.
Yep.
And so if you've got a core baseline of a product and you can iterate quickly to get a new module built onto it, or you can stratify from, a bronze, silver, gold into a platinum version of that product and hit a new segment or TAM of the market, those are opportunities. I think that's all of the work that you're constantly doing of, okay, how long will it take for us to stretch in this press, part of our ICP to expand out if we do these XYZ things, right? Who can we go buy that's already built a company that we can integrate in that would be a good partner for us, right?
Yep.
And it always takes two to tango. They may not want to sell even though you want to buy, right? And then there's always a partner route too. Partner routes can have pros and cons, of partnering, because you can get stuck with a partner where you don't have enough control over what you want to do, et cetera. And so, I think it's getting your product team to always be thinking about what can we do to be building off of the base that we already have, and then what are those opportunities, usually in an M&A standpoint, especially in private equity because of the timeline, to go build and integrate and pull something new in that we can cross sell into our customers.
That makes a lot of sense. So when you think about the processes of building products, maintaining products in private equity, and honestly, in these days for all of us, operational efficiency is just critical, right? Margin, profitability is so important. Are there particular processes or structures that you have been able to change or unlock that have really helped you see significant gains?
Oh, Trisha, you're going to love my answer.
Oh
You
boy,
know what I'm going to say, don't you?
I hope so,
Because
but
product operations is near and dear to my heart.
product operations, I love it. And we did not plan to talk about product
I
operations.
know, but like, isn't that what Pendo is, famous for? Is essentially, is that, you sit right in that core function.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of product operations. I think it's a really critical function in a product organization. It literally can give leverage to a CPO if they know how to really use that function. It's just an extension of them getting everything done from an executive and administrative standpoint that you need to get done to support a strategic operating cadence.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer that if you can build out a strong operating model, and there's lots of operating models out there. Pick one. Like there's no perfect operating model. I think we all have had exposure to operating models and we make it our own. But whether it's that cadence of making sure that your team is, touching certain aspects of their product development lifecycle on a regular cadence and showing their work, whether it's bringing in the right tooling, and nowadays a lot of the AI tooling that's coming into place, right? So it's implementing things like Pento and actually using the data and getting the telemetry to optimize, what users are doing and how they're using the product. So I think product operations is a really great place to start, of just getting standards in place across the board for product managers that let them do their job and give them the freedom to really explore and spend time with customers and users.
I love that. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Jody. In terms of product operations, for me, what I love about it is it can help us always baseline our product conversations in a business outcome, right? What were we trying to achieve last quarter or last month? What are we trying to achieve and why? And are we? And it's okay when we're not. Let's not just keep doing the same thing if we're not, but being able to have that measurement of what the outcome is. And sometimes it's usage, like you talked about Pendo. Sometimes it's ARR, right? Sometimes it's, support tickets we're trying to reduce in a particular product, kind of to your point, depending on the product's maturity. But I love how product operations can really help us look at each product, look at each initiative, where we are in the product development life cycle, and help bring that rigor of measurement to the table for our conversations.
Yeah, and it opens up at the end of the day too. If you have that operating model in place, you start to find where you're spending dollars that you shouldn't, or where it's time to stop investing in a product and let it ride for a little while and get it ready to be sunset. A good product operations leader is watching that entire cycle and really helping to optimize it.
I love that. So true. So switching gears a little bit and coming back to your first hard call, which was around people. I know that as a leader, you are a great product leader. You know how to do things like make decisions based on data and investment data and product operations, but you also know how to hire and put together a great team. And I know you emphasize servant leadership and trust-based vulnerability. How do you create that kind of special culture where the right people want to come work on your team, but at the same time, the pressure to deliver results doesn't go away, right? Like just because we have a great culture, just because we, are a people first and care about people doesn't mean that we don't have pressure and results. So tell me how you balance those.
Oh, The last team, my last team, I think we did a really great job of building that. You do have to make sure that you get your team together, you get them offsite, you spend time doing things outside of the office, if you will, and you get them knowing each other. And one of, I think, the best examples was my last CTO partner. He and I were just really great partners of bringing our product leadership team together and engineering leadership team together.
Love that.
They needed to really build that vulnerability based trust, and we had multiple cultures involved. So we had Americans, we had Canadians, we had British, and we had Indian, right? So everybody thinks differently. They express themselves differently. Some are more direct, some are a little bit more subtle in the way that they talk about what's important to them. And so we would do a weekly call that we held every single week, and we took turns of who was going to facilitate and who was going to scribe. And everybody took a turn. So every single person on that whole call would take a turn from, we had directors all the way up to, myself and the CTO, and we all took turns at facilitating and scribing. And we would always start off with an icebreaker. And that was the starting point, right? Of just getting to the most amazing cultural things would come out of that, because, a pop culture type of question might get asked and people in another culture would go, we have no idea what you're talking about. Or they would say the same thing and we would be like, I don't know how to answer the question. And we'd laugh and we'd start to learn about, what we were thinking about. And it led also into, it was a nice way to grease into, okay, now we're going to talk about the real hard things that we're doing of people, processes, tools, and it started to really build trust. When people feel like you can connect on a level that you're talking about your kids, you're talking about what you did this weekend. Now, you don't have to open up what they call, the Johari window so big that you are like pouring your soul out, but certainly sharing a few things about yourself that people don't know about you so that you become more human.
Yeah.
And when you become more human, it is a lot easier to talk about the hard stuff we have to get done. And it's easier also to get people motivated that, yeah, we got some hard work to do, but you're going to feel really good when we get it done. And we're all going to do it together and we're going to be in it together. So I think it's that combination of bringing people together, modeling that behavior, and encouraging people to open up and talk about what's on their mind. There were many times that we'd be in our $9 Zoom call, et cetera. And especially through COVID, my gosh, $16 Zoom call. And, really going out of our way to be, hold on, Trisha, I think I can see it on your face. What are you thinking? Tell us what you're thinking. Like, I want to hear your voice, and encouraging people to speak up. And, you may not always agree with what they say, but you want to get that dialogue out there, and you want to get people challenging and talking to each other. And for the people that don't talk on those calls, there's a lot of coaching going on behind the scenes. Hey, you need to speak up. Like, when you're in a leadership role, your voice it's critical that it's at the table. You got to participate.
Got to participate. And, one of the things I really try to encourage in those types of conversations too is critiquing your idea or critiquing the strategy for your product is not critiquing you.
And that's hard, right? Because it becomes your baby.
I know. And it's also, there's an art to doing that, right? There's an art to making sure you aren't critiquing. You have to look at yourself in the mirror too and say, did I critique them or did I critique the product? And then the listener has to feel, well, am I treating it like it's my baby, or am I treating it like I need to do the right thing to deliver the business outcome? And I feel like those conversations are so critical to get right for culture. And you can't just let someone's bad idea go because you don't want to be mean. But at the same time, you don't need to annihilate people, right? And that's just so hard, because sometimes I've heard, especially earlier in my career, I've heard people say things like, don't criticize in public, right? Only praise in public. But when you're in product and you're in a group session where you're trying to get product strategy and trying to get the right decisions, you can't not criticize the idea. You can't not criticize the product, but you don't have to criticize the people. And that's just, I don't know, it's always been a hard thing for me to get right.
You know what I always encourage people to do? Ask questions. I've been in scenarios. I remember sitting in a big. It was our executive leadership team and our senior leadership team. There were a couple other more junior folks that had joined the meeting, and at the time, the CEO had said something that somebody told me later, like that was incorrect. He didn't have all the information. I'm like, ask a question.
Yeah.
Just ask a question. He would have wanted you to ask that question, right?
Yeah.
Or when people ping me, what they just said was wrong. Ask a question, and you can say it in a way that's illuminating, and not like you want to be careful not to put the person on the back foot if they didn't realize that they didn't have all the information.
Right.
Oh, well, hey, Trisha, did you know that we just got more feedback from a customer? Has that gotten to you yet about that feature and why it's not meeting the business need? Oh, no, I haven't gotten that. Can somebody send that over my way? I'd love to see it, right? So I try to encourage people ask questions, and that a lot of times, even when you are coaching people on how to criticize their own product, by asking them questions, they're asking themselves the questions, and they've got to get to that moment of honesty. And of what's actually happening. And data is a beautiful thing.
I love that.
It's a
Love
beautiful
that.
thing.
Well, I think asking questions can be so powerful. Other than that, what are other tips or tricks or pieces of advice that you give to your product managers who are aspiring to be product leaders, or product leaders that are aspiring to be a CPO? Like, how are you helping them? What advice are you giving this next generation of leaders?
Be curious. That's always, I mean, with everything that's changing right now, I mean, you and I both lived through the SaaS and mobile, eras, if you will. Um, it's the AI era now, right? And so you be open and be curious and be studying and be trying new things. Um, to anyone who wants to be a CPO, learn the financials of the business.
Love that.
Really understand what are the levers that are going to drive enterprise value in the business. It's going to be top line growth, bookings growth, and annual recurring revenue in a SaaS business. It's going to be that gross retention rate of keeping those customers renewing and staying on the product, right? And it's going to be at the same time having a really clean shop of operations, and especially also on the technical side, that you're not building up a whole bunch of technical debt, but like learn your product craft as you're going, but do not shy away at all of what your investors, whether you are a privately held company, founder led, or public company, how do you make decisions that impact the value of the company? At the end of the day, your job is to build enterprise value as a CPO, and there's a lot of different ways and levers to do it. Uh, that starts with a product manager learning their product, right? My favorite question to ask product managers, especially in group settings, is how many of you know the bookings number for your product this year?
Yeah. I
Not
love
all of them do,
that.
right? And if they're going to run a mini business, they got to know, like, what is the sales team trying to achieve? What is the average sales value of my product? And how often are we winning or losing? For
Love that.
every at bat, are we hitting it, or are we, not hitting it? And what do I need to do as a product manager to optimize this product that's going out the door so that customers not only buy it, but they renew it? So I think the financial acumen is a huge piece that I just can't emphasize enough, is probably one of the areas that I see as a growth area for so many product managers and even, aspiring executives.
Yeah.
So there's the technology side, there's the creativity side of building great products, but if you really want to cascade up into the next level of your career, you've got to make sure that financial basis is there as well.
I totally agree, Jody. And I've said this so many times. Like, to me, that's the biggest difference especially when you're jumping from like director to VP or VP up. Like, you got to know this business. You've got to understand the business metrics, where they could be optimized, where little tweaks in your product strategy can help jump forward ARR or margin, wherever you are in the cycle. And I think understanding the business metrics is so critically
Well,
important.
and it doesn't discount, right? You still need to know what's happening with the competition
Of
and
course.
what are they releasing and how are they positioning their product. It is multi-dimensional.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just saying on there's one side of it of focusing on like the telemetry around your product is not just how many people clicked on something or used it today, monthly, daily active users.
Yep.
It goes so much deeper than that.
Yep.
And yes, as a product manager, we could take that and slice it right down into the narrowness of a product manager. Get closer and closer and closer to your user and customer. I can't emphasize that enough, right? There's a lot of product managers and CPOs that don't spend enough time with customers out in the field. How are they using it? What does my product look like in the wild? And really understanding that. So that's probably the more practical side of it that
Yeah.
you'd add to it. So
And even like, what's your strategy, right? When I think about executives talking to other customer, like to the customer executive, then it's like not just how are you using my product? What do you like about it? Is it delivering value for you? But where are you taking your business over the next 3 years?
how can we be a partner for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a game changer for how you think about your product strategy and investments when you know your most strategic customers and what their 3 year and 5 year plan are so that you can really start to align not just the here and now and what they like about your product, but where you're going together over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, the dynamics change a lot. I think, back in the days of just writing stories in Jira and building a product backlog, et cetera, as your career progresses, there's a lot of other dimensions that have to come into it and skill sets to really round out being a fulsome product leader.
So as you're engaging with different product companies and different product leaders today, how are you thinking about AI, right? There's for all of us building product, it's incorporating AI, whether it's agentic experiences, conversational interfaces, AI summaries into our product, or using, you had mentioned this a little bit earlier, AI tools to give us more efficiency. How are you advising the people you're working with today in terms of AI?
Well, I think you need to look at AI and how it's going to disrupt every aspect of business. And that's a very broad statement to start off with, right? But I'm sure at Pendo, you're looking at, how do we not only optimize our operations, customer success, support, sales, what tool sets can we use to, build a better pipeline, right? Or increase our win rate. And those are all internal operations. But it's also how do you incorporate that into your product so that your end user is getting that same leverage. So I think there's an internal view to it of what are all the tool sets that could apply to where I spend time in my job and what I do, right? So you're a product manager writing user stories or PRDs, or you're doing competitive intelligence. The tools can save you a ton of time. Now, they're not always a replacement for a human, but they certainly can give you a lot of leverage so that you can, and instead of doing 500 Google searches, you can have a starting point that's a lot has a lot more thickness to it. So I think any product person out there should just be looking at every single aspect of how they spend their day and all the tasks that they do, and what are ways that they can be applying AI to go faster. I think it's also important of, where is your company adopting it, and what are the privacy rules, and what's the governance that you've put into place to make sure that you don't have IP going out the door, especially with your product folks and the searches they might be doing. So I think that's important for a leader to be thinking about. Putting it into the product, you're thinking about it just on the other side of that table, right? I mean, and I think for product people, it's probably kind of easier to think about it that way. Because you just have to go to the other side of the table and just look back and say, okay, if I was using this, just as if I was using any of these other products I use in my day to day, where would I inject AI in? What would I do? Where does it make sense and where does it not make sense?
Yeah, I
It's a
love it.
powerful tool.
It is so powerful. And you're right. I mean, we at Pendo are rethinking every one of our processes and where can we use AI. And we've had some huge wins and we've had some places where we've learned maybe it didn't work as well. And that's on the internal and the external side of things. And I think right now for all of us, we've got to keep experimenting and keep
Sure.
trying and learn new things and figure out what works and doesn't work. But I do think everything is sort of on the brink of change right now.
You know what I think is really interesting though in this time frame is that I think I think our kids are in similar age ranges, if I remember.
Yes.
But our kids grew up with no AI, no AI, no AI. It's cheating, it's cheating, it's cheating, and it was hammered into their heads.
Yeah.
And so now, I, of course, I'm trying to get my kids to think about AI, and they're like, stop. They're like, no, it's bad. And it's like, no, it's not bad, right? And so
Not bad.
it's not bad. And I think there's a lot of employers out there who have to almost give permission to that generation where AI was introduced, and they were quick adopters of taking a look at it and using it. And then they were quickly, harnessed. Wait, hold on. You can't do your test and homework on that, right? And so I see schools starting to embrace it a lot more, and try to work it into the curriculum and get that permission going with the younger generation. And I say younger generation, my gosh, like, multiple, who knows how that is even defined. But I'm part of the younger generation, aren't we both?
Of course, we're part of
We're
the
still young.
we
We're still
we
young. But I think that there is a group of folks out there who, weren't given that permission. And in that is the world is changing so quickly, that I think it's upon leadership team members to also really encourage their teams to like use it, try it. I want you using it. This is how it's going to help you. It's not going to replace you. It's going to augment you to be, supercharged and to do so much more work and a value. Your brain becomes the value add on top of what AI does.
So true. My kids, Jody, make fun of me all the time. I'll be doing something. They're like, "Did you just AI that?" And I'm like I'll plan, whether it's like planning a trip or getting ready for a list of questions at a doctor's appointment. They're like, did you just chat GPT that, mom?" And I'm like, "Why is that,
Yes, I did.
guys? No, you should be congratulating me." And then this weekend, we had a fascinating conversation about AI being people and certain, like, are people going to um, have philosophical issues with it? And are they going to have biases against AI? And do we need to rethink, just like many years ago, how we had biases against certain groups of people, and rethink that with AI? And it was like a crazy, fascinating discussion in our house with as a family this weekend. It was
Oh
pretty
my
fun.
gosh.
I know.
Yes. Yeah.
Wild. It's wild.
It's an intellectually stimulating conversation to have.
It
Right.
is. It
Yeah.
is. But it is definitely going to change our world. Well, Jody, as we close out today, I do want to come back to hard calls and just ask you one more question as we finish up. You said this in the beginning, and I totally agree. And it's actually why I created this podcast. Is what makes product hard is that everyone has an opinion, right? Sales thinks they know what's best for the
Yeah.
product. Support team, like, if you just fix this one thing, it would make my life better. Customers have opinions for products they want you to build. Our board, turn everything upside down and go AI first. But at the end of the day, we're the ones accountable, and we're the ones who have to make that call. So how do you think about data versus gut instincts, and like what you really lean on in terms of what's critical to get the hard calls right?
It's got to be both, right? I think that uh, you have to have telemetry around the decisions that you're making as a product leader. Now, that's sometimes really hard. You might walk into a business and there's no data. I've had that where there's limited amount of data. And so you're going more off gut instinct than you're going off of data driven. But you might pull that information from a cross-functional group of people to understand, well, tell me what's going on in the business. And you do have to make a discerning call based off of what is a little bit more, I'd say EQ versus IQ of what might be coming in. And so, but it's also your job to get that telemetry going so that you can at least reduce the margins in some of those calls. Because sometimes you have to make a call and you don't have all of the data. You just have to pick a point and start moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing to be careful of is somebody shared the concept with me of a one-way door or a two-way door, right?
Yep.
So is it a door that you can walk back through, or is it a one-way door that you can never turn around and undo what you've done?
Yeah.
And so I think that's another dimension you can layer on top of that is as you start to make hard calls and decisions.
Yep.
Yet there are often ones that you have to make a really hard call and it's a one-way door.
Yep.
And the question is how high are the stakes? when you make that decision.
So true. And the higher the stakes, the more data you want, right?
But you can't have analysis paralysis either,
Yeah.
right? And so I think a good product leader has that gut instinct to, sleep on it, see how you really feel about it, and you sometimes you just have to make the hard call without all of the information because the business has to keep moving forward.
Yeah, Jodi, at Pendo, we say no decision is still a decision. So you made a decision. You just made no decision. That might be the worst of all, you know?
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. Well, Jodi, thank you so much for being on Hard Calls for this episode. I know our listeners have learned so much from this conversation. I have too. Always a joy to spend some time with you. So thank
Likewise.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Hard Calls, the product podcast where we share best practices and all the things you need to succeed. If you enjoyed the show today, share it with your friends and come back for more.